Are your goals motivating you? Hi, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me. In less than 15 minutes, I'll be sharing with you the importance of having clear goals so that they can actually motivate you to actually accomplish them, right? So please like and share this video if you get value from it. I'm Dr. P. I'm a strategic business coach. I've been a school psychologist for about 10 years in K-12 schools, served on professional organization committees, served as an advisor on some organization committees currently, and I teach online psychology graduate courses. And today I wanted to really ask you this question: are your goals motivating you? Because according to some research that was done out of Harvard, about 83% of the US population don't have goals. So here's my question though: are you in that 83%, or are you in the, what is that, 17% that who actually has goals? Right? Because when you have clear goals, it makes such a huge difference, right? And I know some of you might be thinking of some of those goals that you set in your life before, or even at work, and you're like, goals don't work because you weren't able to accomplish them. But the thing is that goals are probably not working because you are missing some key things in there. Not just having clear goals, but some other components that I want to share with you so that you can be by far more successful at achieving those goals of yours. So having clear goals is one of the first steps in making sure that you can actually motivate yourself to achieve those goals that you're setting out. Because at the end of the day, if your goal is too complex and leaves you uncertain with what on earth you're actually working towards, guess what? You're probably not going to work towards that goal. And it means your goal isn't clear. And that's probably what has happened to you before in the past. And that's why you may be like, goals don't work. But I can assure you, goals do work when you actually write them appropriately. So in this video, I want to share with you the importance of having those clear goals, because that is the foundation for setting appropriate goals so that you can actually be motivated and accomplish them, right? So I'm sure you've even heard people, or even me, because if you follow me on social media, you probably heard me talk a lot about having goals and setting goals and how they can help us reach our successes. And that is true, they can, but you have to actually write them appropriately, right? So when you are doing your goals, there are certain things that you need to bear in mind. And by the way, setting goals is not just for business owners. It isn't. You can also set goals for your personal self. You can also set career goals as well, because in the end, goal setting can help with increasing some self-confidence and also increasing happiness. Because there's nothing like when you write a goal, you actually look at this goal, develop this goal, implement it, take those actions and achieve it. It's so amazing and such a wonderful feeling when you achieve those goals that you set up for yourself, right? Because you're getting closer and closer to that success that you want. But to effectively write those goals, to effectively help you achieve those goals, like I mentioned, there's certain elements that we have to have included in our goals. And I'm going to be sharing those things with you. And did you know that the type of goals and the quality of your goals can actually affect how well those goals are at motivating you to complete them? Because, if you set big goals, you probably understand what I'm talking about, because you haven't achieved those goals because the goal was too vague, right? So that's why I want to share what you can do to help yourself be more successful at achieving those goals. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Edwin Locke, but he was one of the first people to research and share about goal setting. And this was back in the 1960s, right? So Locke talked about how having clear goals could serve as a way to motivate employees. And he did some research on that. And he was one of the first to really look at that goal setting theory and develop goal setting theory. And years after Locke has done his research, Dr. Gary Latham conducted a study on goal setting in the workplace. And what he found in his research supported what Locke had found, years prior about goal setting theory and motivation. So if you've heard about SMART goals, this is where the whole concept of SMART goals came from when you're looking at setting appropriate goals. So what does all of this have to do with you setting clear goals and with goal setting theory, right? According to Locke and Latham, there are 5 principles that we must consider when we set our goals. And once we've included all 5 of these, then we are in a much better position to increase our chances of success. So that means we're in a better position of increasing the likelihood of us actually accomplishing those goals if we have these 5 things, built into our goals. Because put it this way, how many times have you heard someone tell you, hey, just try harder next time? Because that's their way of, I guess, wanting to motivate you. But have you really stopped and thought about what that means? Because I bet you when the person said to you, just try harder next time, you're like, I did try hard, but now you're telling me I gotta try harder. It's like, what exactly does that mean? What does it even look like to try harder? So there's a difference between somebody telling you, try harder next time, and someone telling you, hey, next time aim for doing 4 more tasks than you did before, or aim for selling 2 more products than you did before. Because you see how different that is? That isn't me just saying, hey, try harder. I'm being more specific about what you are aiming for, what you should, that goal that you're going to be looking at achieving, not just telling you, hey, try harder next time. There is a difference. And by the way, this is also similar to giving people feedback. Hey, Ernestine, thanks for joining me on Instagram, just talking about goal setting and how setting appropriate goals can serve to motivate us. And I was just about doing an example of it, and just to give a difference between inappropriate and vague goals and more specific goals, right? So this example I'm going to give you is, along the lines of feedback. Sometimes people tell you, oh, good job, you did a really good job, but you're not quite sure what the good job is. And there's a difference between someone telling you good job and someone saying, hey, you were so convincing in your argument that you were able to help that customer see the value in what we have, and you got them to buy, 80% more than what they had initially said they wanted to buy. I mean, that is specific. That is by far better than someone telling you good job. So that's where I'm coming from when I'm talking about being specific in our own goals for our own businesses, or in our personal lives, or in our careers. We do have to be specific about those goals that we're setting. So the information I'm going to share with you today took from multiple sources, including Mind Tools, Positive Psychology, Goal Strengths, and the Management Study Guide, and took all that information and brought it together to share with you guys, right? So that you can have this information right at your fingertips, and you don't have to go digging and looking for it. So each of those resources I mentioned, Mind Tools, Positive Psychology, Goal Strengths, and Management Study Guide, they have tons of information on their websites about goal setting theory. I'm just going to summarize it, and you can go and check those out at a later date. So as I mentioned, there are 5 things that we need to make sure we're including when we're setting our goals. And those are the 5 things I'm going to share with you right now. The first one is clarity, because a vague goal can lead to you not working towards that goal or simply putting it off. And Ernestine is saying, yes, it's a good reminder to be specific, because we have to be specific. And when we're being specific, we're being clear, because you want your goal to be clear, you want your goal to be specific, because the more clear and specific your goal, the more it's going to motivate you to actually want to achieve that goal, right? So we also need to make sure we put a deadline in there, because we could be specific, but we don't want it to be forever and ever. We do want to make sure we're including a deadline to really get us into action of, oh my gosh, I have X amount of days or X amount of weeks to get this goal completed. So that's the first one, being clear and specific. The second one is challenge. So the goal you're working on should have some element of challenge involved, right? And it should be challenging to you, but it's not supposed to be challenging somebody else, because it's your goal. So your goal should be challenging to you. But it also means your goal should not be impossible. Your goal shouldn't be impossible, because there's a difference between challenging and impossible, because you actually want to give yourself the opportunity to succeed at achieving the goal. But you don't want to make it too easy, but you also don't want to make it seem impossible, because you have to be sure to be realistic as well. When we're setting our goals, we do have to be realistic. And you can even base your reward off of completing that goal based on the level of challenge that was involved in you completing that goal. Okay? So make sure you do have some challenging component, but don't make it impossible. The third one is commitment. And there are a lot of people who struggle with commitment. So many people struggle with commitment on so many different levels, not just in business world, but also in their personal lives. People struggle with commitment. And this is a big one that we have to make sure that we're including in our goals. Hi, thanks for joining on Facebook. Hi, Leonard. Thanks so much for joining on Facebook. Nice to see you here, Leonard. So, commitment. This part is about making sure that your goal is achievable. Not only just achievable and clear, but once you have a goal that's clear and you have a goal that has that challenge built in, you're more likely to want to actually work towards that goal. More likely to put some purposeful and meaningful effort into achieving that goal. And if you're setting your goals with a team, you're more likely to increase your team being committed to the goal if they're involved in developing that goal. Because if you stay committed to your goal, then you are going to be on your way to taking those actions to achieve it. Just want to check in here on Instagram. Ernestine said, oh my God, this is all what I'm doing at the moment, but I don't know if it's impossible. Not impossible, Ernestine. We could chat later about that to help you out some more. Yes, Ernestine. Saying all of this, maybe I was thinking about you when I was writing this. I was like, ooh, maybe Ernestine's looking at some goal setting. I don't know, Ernestine, but I'm so happy that this is helping you out. Like I said, we can connect later and help you out with making sure that your goals are realistic and not impossible, because we want to help you stay committed to those goals that you have. And Ernestine, I'm wearing my necklace too, so I didn't even know you were joining today, but you got to see me and my necklace. Love it so much. But getting back to these 5 things we want to have in our goals, right? So with these 5 things we want to have in our goals, we want to make sure that we're giving ourselves some time for feedback, because we do want to make sure that we are looking at the progress that we're making towards completing our goals. We don't have to wait to get feedback from other people. We can sit and look at the progress we're making and do some reflection, do some review on what we've done so far and what we need to actually accomplish. Because in doing that, we can make a determination of whether or not we need to adjust the goal. I'm not saying get rid of the goal or stop the goal, but adjust the goal. Because when we first started working towards the goal, when we developed the goal, there are certain things that we may have thought we had. We had all of the resources that we needed, but didn't realize that there were certain elements or certain people who needed to be involved. So you might need to make some adjustments to your goal. Not giving up on it, but just some adjustments. And it also makes you stop and realize, hey, are you even putting time on a weekly basis or monthly basis to review the progress you're making towards your goal? Because that feedback is important. And again, it doesn't have to come from someone else. It can come from you looking at the progress you're making towards your goal. Because if you're staying committed to your goal, you're also staying committed to reviewing the progress that you are making so that you can achieve it. And the frequency with which you're going to actually review your goal and even give feedback to your team if you're working with a team towards a specific goal, that's going to be determined by the type of goal that you have. Because some things that we're working on, we do have to review them on a weekly basis. Some things might be on a monthly basis. But we do want to make sure we're leaving some time for review. The 5th thing that I wanted to mention is complexity. Goals that are too complex can become so overwhelming to us. Because I know I've been there where I wrote out goals and I was like, okay, this goal is great. But it was so complex and it was so overwhelming that I had to put it off. But then I realized if I take that goal and break it down into smaller goals, it became a lot more manageable and less complex for me. And it was not so overwhelming. So when your goals are too complex, they can become overwhelming, and it can lead to you just not wanting to work towards that goal. That's something that can happen. So you do also want to make sure you're factoring in the amount of time that you're going to need to complete the multiple parts of the goal, so that way you're not just putting unnecessary pressures on yourself and forcing yourself to get things done in an unrealistic amount of time. But so there's a lot of planning involved in not just developing your goals, but outlining the actions and the timeline that you're going to need so that you can be successful towards working on your goal. And to help you determine if your goal is complex, here's a tip you can use. Share your goal with someone else. Because sometimes in our head things sound amazing, they sound great, but then when we start to put them into action, we're like, oh, this does sound a little complicated. Or like Ernestine was mentioning on Instagram, she was mentioning, hey, it might seem a little impossible, but is it? So try explaining your goal to someone else. And it's not that you're wanting their input in the goal. You're looking at how well you're explaining your goal. And are you losing yourself in the process? Or are you really on point with your goal? You know, sometimes you just need to hear things aloud, and it helps us to determine whether or not is as far-fetched or complex or easy as we were thinking. So try that out and see how that works for you. So just a few things to remember. When you're setting your goals, you want to ensure that you and your team members have the necessary skills to complete those goals. Because, again, some goals that we're working towards might be putting us into new and uncharted territory. We might not have the resources, we might not have the skills, but we need to make sure we acquire the resources and acquire the skills so that we can actually work towards those goals and be successful, and not that we're going to just get rid of those goals, right? And goal setting can really help with motivation. It helps you feeling motivated in your business as a small business owner, helps you to motivate your team that you're working with. You know, it does help with motivation. So just want to make sure I toss those in there before I wrap up this live. And thanks again, Ernestine, so much for joining me. Yes, Ernestine, lots of great information, and I'm condensing it too because there's so much out there on goal setting. And I just want to make sure I share these 5 with everyone out there who has goals that they're trying to figure out how to write them. Yes, I know you've probably heard of SMART goals, but you also need to make sure that you have clarity in your goals. There's a specific challenge for you in your goals, that you stay committed to your goals, you give yourself some feedback, and you look at the complexity of your goal to make sure it's not too overwhelming. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Priscilla Kuser with Priscilla Kuser Consulting Solutions. Remember, solutions plus actions equals results. Bye, y'all.